All right.
All right, I'd just like to welcome everybody. Thank you for coming, and just wanted to tell you we have Jesse here from the Department of Revenue. So we if we have some questions that we should be able to get some answers to that. So thank him I'm glad he's here. Thank you for coming, and I guess I think this is a good time or a good venue to not only ask questions, but this is where we get a lot of our enhancements and stuff like that. So if there's something you'd like to see or something that you don't like the way it works, this is the place to kind of bring it up and we can discuss this. Just I guess one reminder is that we are very open to support calls. I mean, we don't charge anything extra depending on how many calls you make or anything like that. So if you run into anything, it's better to give a call and ask a question. And we 99% of the time answer the phone in person. So, but anyway, I just wanted to say welcome, and I guess I will turn it over to.
Who's starting, Bruce?
Oh yeah, shoot. We can do introductions. Let's start. Preston, I'll let you start here.
I'm Preston. I'm a programmer here and also the duck.
Jeff Peterson, I support Kama and NACO.
Susie Hanson, I support tax.
Valerie Howell, I support tax also. Liz Damon, I support tax North Dakota and Minnesota. Gwen Gillespie, I'm the development director at CPT. Lisa Olson, Lyons County. Paige McCarthy, Lyons County. Galen Feindel, Traverse.
Nick Rasmussen, Traverse.
Why don't you chime in here, Jen? Jesse Larson from State Assessor. Sorry. Mike Zagwood, Candioi County.
Val Sabor, Candioi County. Jennifer Halverson, Candioi County. Missy Voigt, Meeker County.
I see Lyon County.
Alexis DeGroat, Pipestone.
Jane Nelson, Pipestone.
Rachel Jacobs and Rock.
David Grubb, Cottonwood. I do not support tax.
Ryan
Larson, Marshall County.
Vicky Mott, Grant County.
Prasad, Todd.
Patty Lloyd, Todd. Flora Winter, Todd.
Jason Ferguson, Medina.
Jessica Hardy, Wilkin.
Michelle Snubble, Wilkin.
Andrew Moss, Big Stone. Logan Hedwig, Big Stone. Danny Tuckett, Big Stone.
Laura Hocker, Sibley. Gina Sibley. Sarah Tush, Wadena. Sandy Wordish, Redwood County. Joanne Michelson, Stevens County.
Craig Swan, Stevens. Doug Bruins, Randall County.
Kim Radloff, Renville.
Joe Cheetah, Swift.
Andrea Netto, Pope. Bonnie Lane, Pope.
Mike Wacker, Bull.
Karen Nelson, Douglas. Pam Reese, Douglas.
I'm Carl from Grant. I'm Monty Struck with American Solutions.
I want to say I'm glad Monty's here also. So if we have any questions there. Just I guess a couple of housekeeping things. I think that the restrooms probably you've already seen are over there, and you probably heard, but we are recording the meeting so that we will post it on our website. So if there's somebody who's not here, somebody wants to review something, they'll be able to review that or look at that. Oh, Monty, you're up.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to your meeting. For those of you who know me, I'm Monty Struck with American Solutions. We provide a lot of your evaluation notices that you mail out in the fall, or I'm sorry, in the spring. And there really isn't much news right now. I'm waiting to hear what the Department of Revenue has to say. Hopefully there won't be any changes, but, I plan on sending out our reorder forms, next month sometime. And unfortunately, I don't think we will be at your conference, fall conference up in, Grand Rapids this year because I will be at a wedding in Georgia. My stepson is getting married and, my wife says I have to be there. Anyway, I just want to thank you all for the business that you sent my way. If there's any questions you have of me, I'm here to help. I've also got a few new members on my team. I've got the twins, which some of you have met, Mike and Mark Jersley. And the other thing I'm doing this year and going forward is I'm bringing my daughter into the business so she can learn all the wonderful county tax business. So if you get a chance to see her next year or something at one of the conferences or at this meeting, just welcome her here. Her name is Anna, and she'll be on the order forms names too. So anyway, thank you for everything, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. All right, and I think we're ready to share our screen here. And then, how do I get rid of this, Preston? Hide voting meeting controls. Here, if you want to. All right, can you hear me now? All right, I'm just gonna swing through, our last tax release and talk a little bit about the programming we've put out. However, most of this stuff, all of this will be gone through more in depth, as our team presents today. So the last tax release, well, this actually started at our assessors meeting in January, I believe. We had contacted Jesse and he was asking us why we had all these codes because you all even didn't know why we had all these assessment codes. And so through discussions, we decided we don't need those codes. They're legacy things. They've been around for years and really we can control this through our choice codes. We can control the 150 and the 2% through our choice codes. So that was the start of the path that we've been on. And so below here are the codes that this would have started. We decided to start after Prism 1 and then try and get this all taken care of for Prism 2. Well, this part I think went pretty well. I think this went pretty well. And you could have started before that too. It's just that we weren't going to remove the codes from your system till before Prism 2. I'm not going to go through them all, but it all involved the 150 and the 2% over 150 preferential. Okay, so then we started digging into state assessed, and that I would say is ongoing. It seems like we feel we get one thing squared away and something else pops up, which Susie will be going through. But this is where we are so far. Okay, like I said, we removed these codes from your system. Then value maintenance has been updated to have certain edits. So now 421, 428, and 454 are only allowed in transmission line, with 422 being kind of a swing, but it can be in real estate or transmission. We've changed our machinery values to only be allowed on assessment codes 230, 39, 422 if it's real estate, 430, 431, 55, 56, and our wind towers. Also, in our new laws, and there weren't a lot of new laws, but hiding in there, I did find that the community land trust now allows class 1B blind or disabled homestead on their property if they qualify, of course. That voting went out with this last tax release. So if that would be a thing, it's ready to go. Okay, so then we moved on to PRISM. And these are the changes we made in PRISM. This has been an issue in PRISM, well, not one, because we report tax increment, but not really. But in 2, 3, it's been an issue for a while. When there was an expansion district, we weren't calculating the we reported the whole district in each section, and they wanted the capture to be, no, they wanted it to be the whole district. We had broken it out to split it up between the expansion parcels and the base parcels. So we fixed that. Machinery values, we cleaned all that up, and now we report them all as K30s except for the 239. So if you have machinery value on any of these codes that allow it, it is being reported as the K20. Then we added a new assessment code, the 430, which is kind of the personal property, like the 230, but it's not involving, it's in personal property. And so we added that and added it to PRISM, of course, because if you were using the 230, it was reported as a D2, which is not right. It needs to be a D. Also, our assessment codes 201 and 204. So we make this decision for you based upon what's in your choice, because they do have them broken out between residential and ag, what they're tied to, the 2010 and the 2040. And we just swing through the choice code they're in, the choice group, MP group choice they're in, and make that decision. Are they ag based? If there's ag property in this group, then we report them as such. Let's see. Okay, we also made this decision on the 454 because it's a different PRISM code if they're in the city or if they're in a township. So we just look at your largest township and make that decision for you as well. And this doesn't involve you, but it went out on the last release, and that was the Form 51, the school district report doesn't have to go to the DOR, the Department of Education, excuse me, anymore. So we just took that off. So the other new law that I'm just going to touch on was the law protecting judicial officials' personal information. And I'm not going to read through all this, but 2 years ago, a federal law was enacted called Danville's Law. And we added programming at that time to work with that and to meet those requirements. So I'll just quickly going through what our system does. So first you have to get paperwork. This talks about the recorder's office. But paperwork saying they are they qualify for this and they want protected official status. So in our system, you go into that taxpayer. There's a field you mark that tells that it's a protected official. From there, that takes care of all the parcels that they're associated with. From there, you go to the web, and I know you don't do this, but the auditors do, and they exclude those parcels from the web. And the reason they're excluded is not because we can't take that information away. But A, we really don't want them to be searchable, and B, we have tax statements on the web, and the tax statements have all the information. So if you could get to that web record, you could bring up a tax statement and see everything. So they wouldn't be very safe in that regard. The other thing we did is we added a question to report generator on if you're running a protected official report. And what that does is any information that's in that report generator takes out the name stays and the parcel stays, but section, township, range, description, property address, their taxpayer address, that's all gone and scrubbed. So the fourth thing is, and this used to be really a thing. I don't know if it's that much anymore, but that you have public screens at your courthouse. So if you do, we would appreciate a call to our office because we do have special coding in our inquiry program for a counter PC that just brings up inquiry. Along with our regular inquiry, we added coding that shows you if in the county you bring up a parcel, it says right in the name that this is a protected official. So you're tipped off that I better be careful about what I give out here. So the reason I'm bringing this up is our web files. So remember I said one of the things you do when you have a protected official is you exclude them from our web files. Well, our web files don't just go to our tax web. They go to your GIS systems in a lot of cases. And today we're kind of throwing it out there and asking for thought and guidance on what to do because, okay, so today this parcel was not under a protected status. It went to the web, it went across to your GIS. Today they got marked and they got excluded from the web. So tonight, they're not going to our tax web and they're also not going to your GIS system. So we think what happens is that your GIS system doesn't take them out. They just, we don't think, they just sit there with the previous day's information. So the first question is that a fact? And the second question would be, well, what do we do about it? So anybody care to weigh in on that?
Is that any different than like if we were to change acres and it goes to our, like if I change acres today, it automatically shows up on my GIS tomorrow.
It is different because that parcel's still there. The difference is this parcel's gone from the file, not in there. So we think what happens is it just, I mean, it's. So, okay, so counties that when you split combine, you had a parcel, it was one, and now it's split. So you don't use one, you use 2 and 3. How does that work? Because it would. So, let me just say this. We're going to need some guidance to help you on what we should do. If anything, maybe it all just works fine. We don't know, but we think we need to at least think about it. If we're to take this law and before that, Daniel's law seriously, which I know you do, but.
I think the biggest thing is that we need to know too, as far as, your GIS, I mean, a lot of people have their own GIS personnel at the county. So I think the question is, we just want them to make sure that you and them are also aware that when these come through, the GIS is gonna have to do something to probably
We think
remove
they are.
those.
We think something's
So-
gonna have to happen.
So I don't expect anybody to necessarily know
No,
that, but I
today.
think it would be a dialogue with your GIS to make sure that those are getting removed from there, because that is another avenue that protected information could be be made public, basically, when it shouldn't.
Well, it is, it's on a map with.
But shouldn't it work, so when you mark it as a official. So when you mark it as an official, that completely deletes all of that information, but in GIS, link it tied to the parcel.
Yep.
Layer for GIS in our county, so in GIS, I link it to a parcel development. So if nothing in the tax system is linked to that parcel number, just the parcel number shows up and it's just linked in our GIS. I mean, that's for us. So if.
Well, that would
you
be
would-
good.
And-
Right,
And I think the other part of that is that it would, if it kind of comes through like today,
right,
well, it would have to be updated. Not all the GIS are updated every single night either.
right.
So that would be the other thing. Some people, I think, only do it like once or maybe twice a year. But yeah, in that case, yes, that would be correct. If it's taken out of there and it's taken out of the GIS side, you should be good.
Okay, well. That's helpful, but we just wanna throw this out there, that's really what this is about. We at CPT are covered for you all with what we've done in our system. The question is when it goes beyond our system, are we all covered? So, that's all I have unless there's any questions. Alrighty.
Okay, just a couple follow-ups on what Gwen had said. Just so you know, she talked about the assessment codes that we removed and how your evaluation maintenance has been updated to update your edits. That doesn't happen until you've seen it in my emails, run the program. Are we all familiar with run the program? I think we have 2 counties left who have not cleaned up their files to the place where I can run this program that will update your edits. So that hasn't been done, just so you know, your edits are not up to date. And if you wonder if you're one of those counties, find me later. Another note is for Daniel's Law and for the Safe at Home program. They're like similar but different programs. We do have documentation. So if you get like the first, we never had this before, but now we have it, give us a call. We'll send you the document. We have that walks you through real easy how to do Daniel's Law, how to do Safe at Home. Okay, next we're going to switch over to data set. Oh, see, this is why I put this on here. I'm supposed to say again that we are happy to do training. So we tend to do 3 types of trainings. One, we can come to your county like for the day or the afternoon and we can run through a whole bunch of stuff. I would say in tax, that's less common. It's more common in our other systems just because of how your process works. We're totally willing to do that. If you have like an afternoon of training you want us to do, we can come and do that. We also set up like a CPT support Zoom account, and we do a lot of that where we set up a Zoom with you and we spend an hour showing you, like, I do a lot with auditors, like how to upload ditches. I can see your screen, you can see my screen. We can go back and forth and walk through it together for the first time. So if you have like a new person that comes to your office and you're like, look, can you walk through this with them for the first time? Absolutely. And that can be set up in advance or just call us in the morning, say we want to do it today. We'll Zoom immediately or set up a time to do that. And then the third type of training that we do is answering phone calls. And I think most of you know you can call us. But we get, again, tends to be new people who don't understand that that is actually my job is to talk to you on the phone all day, every day. And Valerie and Liz. So like we are here for you. Give us a call. If we can't answer it, we will find someone to answer it, right? So don't feel bad when we have other people who call. I'm so sorry I'm calling. No, that's why I have a job, because you call. Don't feel bad to reach out. Oh, I have another note here. I had a county call me this morning and they had somebody ask them for this situation. And I said I would just ask. And if there's another county that's seen this, we would let them know. So the situation is there's a taxpayer who wants to make two parcels on one deed. Because one of the parcels is landlocked and they actually want to be on the same deed and connected to blah, 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 blah. So they have two parcels, but they want them to be on the same deed with the recorder's office. And this county sees issues with it for forfeiting purposes and things like that. But if you have seen the situation in your county where you have two parcels that are on the same, like one recorded deed, grab me and I will connect you with that county. Yeah. Okay.
And it was in,
Right, so the reason, this is Polk County who called this morning. Mike chimes up. The reason it has to be two parcels is because the school district line goes right down the middle. So they wanted to combine and we can't do that. If you have two school districts, you have to have two parcels. They want them to be combined. They can't be combined. They still want them to be on the same deed. So if you've ever had a situation where you have allowed two parcels to be on one recorded deed, Polk County would love to talk to you about what you said. I won't out counties, but if you want to out yourself, by all means. Okay. Data sets. Here's a handy dandy data sets reference sheet that Jesse and I have sent back and forth and finally got sent out to you guys. After meeting with Jesse earlier this week, we added some notes to the right. And I will decide if we need to add more notes while we talk through this today. And then send it back out, when we send the follow-up for this meeting. So the biggest thing that I marked on here was these blue highlighted lines. They all have to be in your transmission line subsystem. And then we're going to go through some of the other information that's on here. So our transmission line subsystem is all parcels that are taxed at a countywide rate. For most of you, that's going to be 421s and 454s. Anything that's taxed at a local rate cannot be on the same parcel as those taxed at a countywide rate. So you can't combine those with any other assessment codes. The note that we had, and maybe Jesse wants to chime in, is for these parcels you can combine. Do you want to walk them through how that works?
Yeah. So it kind of depends on the county and how you want to track these parcels, but if they're, so think of a distribution line, records reported by a company, since they are taxed at the countywide average tax rate, they can be combined, they share the same tax rate in your county. I would just recommend that you reach out to us before doing that combination so we can ask the company if that's okay, because some companies have expressed interest to keep those records separate and not combine them for accounting purposes. They'll allocate costs to those distribution line records based on their location. So there are just a small handful of companies that would prefer to keep those separate. But yeah, since they share the same countywide average tax rate, the same property type description, same company, in those instances, they can be combined into one record. And most companies prefer it. They'd rather receive one tax bill for that property as opposed to 10 or 15 tax bills.
So that's something you can do now in the future, however you want, but we had a county that was unaware of that, so we thought we'd bring it up. Before we move forward, this is the classroom participation part of the meeting today. So if you have questions, we have Jesse here, where we have our programmers in the room. Like, now is your time to ask these. Like, I've been pulling my hair out about state assess and I want to have this question answered. Feel free to speak up and I'll run my microphone over to you. So a note that we came up with this week is that if you look at the 428s, 428s only exist in unorganized townships. What that means is none of you in the room here have 428s in your county. If you have 428s in your county, you should not have 428s in your county, and you're going to want to go back and look at that. Let me get out of here. And go look at here. So the way, I would do that if I was you is I would go get this utility and pipeline values, from the state, sort it by your county. Sort it by your county, and then go over here and sort it by, you know, either prison type or property type description, sort A to Z. And go look for what these things are. The other thing you can do is, you know, print out a list of the 428s that you have, sort this by parcel ID, and search for the parcel in question here, and go over and look. Actually, I think my next slide shows. So if you're looking at our sheet that we gave you, the DOR property type description correlates to column 11 on the state sheet, and then the prison type and subtype correlate, and then it should agree on local or countywide tax. So if you're looking at this, we have people using the wrong column on the state spreadsheet and not finding the correct information. So if you're looking for where those 428 actually supposed to go, pull it up, and they're not going to be whatever the 428 was, K43D3s, they're going to be something else. So we have, for these transmission lines, we have 421s, 422s, 425s, 428s, and 454s that can be in your transmission distribution line subsystem. However, the 422s, 425s, and 428s are only there if you have unorganized townships. So really, you're going to have 421s and 454s, just so you know. 421s and 454s are going to be your transmission distribution line subsystem. The next thing we have is power line credit. 425s and 428s can be subject power line credit. And this is where Gwen said we're still learning. We've been communicating with the auditor side of state assessed about this. We had previously been told, or were under the impression that all 425s, because we discovered with Jesse that none of our counties have 428. So they're on there, but we're not worrying about them today. We were under the impression that all 425s had to be in the power line subsystem. It sounds like that is probably true because they are all subject to the power line tax credit. However, if they run completely over public land or over land that doesn't qualify, then there's really nobody who's getting that credit, and then they maybe don't have to be in the power line subsystem. So we had a number of counties as they were going through their state assessed find 425 parcels, and we went, yep, they have to go into the power line subsystem. When we contacted the DOR, they said, you're going to want to talk to the power line companies because this is really between you and the power line companies. So some of you assessors who I told, like, yep, you're just going to want to put that into the power line subsystem. There is a chance you just threw your auditor under the bus, and the power line companies are going to call them and be like, what are you doing? You probably want to take a look at that record, contact that either your office or your auditor's office or your GIS person, you know, whoever can have the information to contact that power line company to say, where is this power line record? What part of our county is it covering? And then figure out what parcels it affects. That makes sense? Questions? We actually this came up because we have 3 counties who discovered power line parcels and they have nothing in their power line subsystem.
Yeah, I'll just add something. So I'm sure you all know this, but transmission lines, the data that we have in state assessed is at the UTA level or the parcel level, which for for state assessed properties at the unique taxing area level. So in state assessed, we do not carry specific geographic information, GIS shape files or anything for our transmission line records. That is why they have to go, or counties would have, auditors would have to reach out to the companies to identify specifically point A to point B in this jurisdiction where that line is going in and out of. One of the things required for the power line credit is the number of feet that's crossing over the qualifying parcel. Again, that's very granular information that only the county or the companies will have. And then, yeah, in terms of qualifying lines, it's those three types. The most common type is the one electric transmission line greater than 200 kV, which is 425.
425.
Yeah, 425. So I think so I just ran from that spreadsheet that Susie had pulled up. There's 59 counties that have qualifying power lines. So that's one side of the equation. That's the property that pays it into the power line credit. And there's the other side of the equation where the parcel is qualifying for the credit itself. So that's an area that is more of a blind spot to me. That's more of an auditor function. So Bill Sparks, I think, is our expert in power line credit. We have a web page, a webinar on power line credit.
Yeah, so what's goofy here is that the 425s are the what we call type 1 parcels. We take 10% of their tax to distribute. And then your like normal taxpayers are what we call the type 2 parcels. They're the ones that like get that tax. So you as the assessor, you're going to know where the 425s are, but you're not necessarily going to know all the different types of parcels that can get power line credit. We send that information to your auditors. I sent that to them this week. So you kind of are going to have to communicate between the two of you. What do we have and how does that work together? We contacted Bill Sparks this week and he sent us an email back that said, good luck, you probably want to talk to the power line companies. So,
And what probably changed in our system is when they tighten what properties, what class of properties qualify for power line, because before, if it ran over your parcel, you qualify. But then they tightened that up several years back.
it's the type 2 parcels. It used to be like
the type
everything on that line
Yeah.
got credit, and then now it's only certain types of parcels that
Yes.
can be type 2 parcels.
Yeah.
So now it's more complicated for your auditor, and we sent them that information.
Yeah.
Which types qualify.
Which probably is why this kind of changed. Because of not giving it to any parcel at a cost.
Do you say that Jesse said we don't have any 428s in any of our counties?
Jesse said there are no 428s in CPT County. 428s have to be in an unorganized township.
Well,
Lake of the Woods is our only county that has unorganized townships, and there are no 428s in Lake of the Woods. I will tell you, like, I've been in your files, I think every county has 428. So don't feel bad if you're like, oh, shoot, I got a whole bunch of 428s. Okay, you don't. If you need help looking at that, we have access to this spreadsheet and can help you figure out what those actually are. But when Jesse said, you know, none of our counties have 428s, Gwen and I looked at each other with really big eyes. We're like, oh boy, it's a good thing we're fixing this. Other questions? Okay, so the other thing that we're seeing is other types of property on 425s. And the most common example is a 425 and a 422. 422s are the assessment code that we just made last year. And the state's like splitting things out. And I think they basically made part of that 425 a 422. 422s are not eligible for power line credit. And our power line subsystem is a lot like our TIP subsystem where the parcels are real estate parcels and we're like flagging them as TIP. Or the real estate parcels and we're flagging them as power line. The difference is in the TIP subsystem, we flag by record. And in the power line subsystem, we flag by parcel. So you cannot have other assessment codes on 425s. If you have a 425 and it has a second record that's a different, the state's not gonna tell you this because this is how our system works. We're not supposed to be capturing 10% of that 422's tax. But if you have it on the same record as the 425, we will be. And that's something we just figured out this week.
I can talk loud. I just was gonna ask Jesse, so I had this, I had a couple of value records with one parcel. And it was a 425 and a 422. I recognize that, I think I sent it the other day, will I get a new DOR ID for that new parcel then, or on, because it's now on the 422 code and it was part of the 420, the other parcel? Will you separate them as DOR IDs, or how will you handle that?
There was so just so I understand that, there was a separate parcel ID that was created to identify that.
Cause I have one
Yep.
parcel with both valid, with the 425 and a 422 in the form of two value records. So I had to create a new parcel number for the 422 part of it, and now it'll be separated by parcel for that reason that Susie just said.
So Doug, you sent them a new county parcel ID for that 422, and you're wondering if they're gonna send you back a new state.
Yeah, how are they, will you guys separate it on as a new DOR ID as well? Is my
Yeah.
question.
Yeah, we can't have the same SAID or DOR ID for two different parcels. So in that circumstance, we'll definitely have a separate SAID created for that. And that was communicated to us already, and
Yeah,
we made the change.
I emailed it the other day, I can't remember.
Okay, yep, and yeah, that change will be, the final values by October 1st.
So yeah, if you need to separate those parcels, just send best an email with the new parcel ID and which value you stuck on that new parcel ID, and then they'll get back to you. So is that pretty clear? Anyone have any other questions? Okay, now we're gonna get to PRISM. Thank you to the 3 counties who have submitted their PRISM 2 and sent us their assessment reviews. We're seeing some common feedback things that I think will affect a lot of other counties. So we're just gonna go through this, and then you will probably tomorrow get these slides. So if you need to come back and reference this when you get your PRISM assessment review, hopefully it will be helpful. But we're seeing where we have locally assessed land on the same record as state assessed values for all of the state, the assessment codes that were on that sheet that we put together with Jesse, with the blue lines. The land, if there's land attached to any of those, it has to be on a separate record. If you have it on the record last year, they came back as review information only. This year, they're coming back as resubmission required. So what it looks like is they'll say, here is what we expected the TC to be. Here's what the TC is. If you look at the difference, it's going to be the TC of the land. If that's the case, you need to move that land to a separate record. The next one we have is, yeah.
I have a quick question with that. When we separate the land off, do we keep the land coded as 230?
Okay, the question is when you separate the land off, say you have I'm going to give you an example of this later actually, but when you have a land that's connected to a 230, can you keep that land as a 230? Yes. We send that land to the state, to just the land bucket. So if you have land on a 230, it can be still a 230 assessment code, just a separate record with the land, or a 430, or a 239, or whatever it is. It can still be that state assessed code. But it has to be in the land on a separate record. The next one we have is where we have, this is saying you have the wrong assessment code. So the top line is saying, we expected you submitted a 422. There's a 422 in your PRISM record. And it does not appear in state assessed. And then the bottom line is saying there's a 425 in state assessed and it's not in your PRISM file submission. The way to easily find these is to pull up your assessment review and sort by parcel number. And if you sort by parcel number, you look for duplicated parcel numbers. And over here it's saying, the state doesn't have this and you're missing that. Well, it's because you can see here over here it's the same value. It's supposed to be 425 and you have it and it's a 422. That's what that means. This is an information only this year. I'm gonna guess that next year it's gonna be a required resubmission. So this is your chance to get these babies ironed out. The next thing we're seeing is railroad. We have somebody put into land and edit, and they're telling you values into your land field. It's going to go through as land and not as this state assessed bucket. You need to put it into the building field in order for it to actually get into that state assessed bucket. And then the 454s, we have a lot of counties that have just been putting through their 454s all together. The state, again, this is just a new edit, nothing changed, but now they're giving you this feedback. In this case, you know, you don't have a K50D4, meaning you don't have it in the city. It's in a township. It's outside of the city. You need to add a city parcel number, move that city value to the city parcel number. It's the same. You have city and township data together on the K454 or on a K50D43, and you need to make a new parcel.
Here's a chat question here.
Okay. That question.
The chat question is, why is railroad showing up on the PRISM report? Was there a change?
We changed nothing. PRISM added an edit. So they've been getting this data and just not giving you feedback about it. Now they're giving you feedback about it. Same thing as our other state assessed stuff. We've been submitting it with wrong assessment codes for years, and now they're looking at it and going, try again.
I can give a little bit of background on that. So in state assessed, we've been wanting to make use of PRISM data. So when it comes back to the state, we would expect that, you know, we could see state assessed data come back in, query all these codes that are state assessed related, match them up to our own records. What we found was that nothing matched. It was really difficult to get a match between our data and state assessed and PRISM. And we were wondering why that is. So we went through a PRISM cleanup, essentially kind of what we did work with CPT just recently, just identifying these property type descriptions, which dictate how these properties data sets are taxed, classed, and identify what the appropriate PRISM subtype, PRISM property type and subtype are for each of those records. And we're able to nail down specific buckets for each of our property type descriptions and make the PRISM submission side cleaner. And that's what led to me contacting vendors, because we still weren't getting clean submissions. And we saw, you know, some issues in like how things are described, not only within the CPT system, but other vendors as well. So we thought it'd be worth the effort of reaching out to the vendors and identifying what matches, what doesn't, and seeing what we can do to clean it up. And I guess, yeah, now would be a good time to say too, I really appreciate CPT's effort and openness and willingness. I want to thank you publicly for putting all that effort in. It's been really nice to see helps, of course, the counties out, but it will help us in state assess with cleaner PRISM submissions. Sorry, that was a tangent, but thank you.
Well, and I've been hearing a lot of feedback from county, like as much as this is a nightmare and a headache this year, thank you so much for doing this, because now we actually know what we're doing instead of like, I'm just gonna avoid that state assess sheet, pretend like it doesn't exist because I don't know what to do with it. And so we have appreciated you being willing to work with us to do this. And another thing that's just to explain some history is that these descriptions over here on the left, state assess is using, they've kind of changed through the years or they've shifted. And so what you will find in our programming doesn't match those descriptions, which is why we didn't really know where and how to put things. And it's not easy to change that programming. Changing that programming would be a nightmare, and we love Gwen too much to make her do that. So instead, we're putting out these documents, our assessment codes booklet, and this sheet should suffice as like translation documents. Here is the description that the state is giving you, and then here is how you put it into our system. So it was really nice that the state sat down and worked with the prison to get kind of the one-to-one, and then they were able to bring that to us so that we could get like the one state assessed to prison to ours to make sure we're doing the one-to-one and getting everything where they need to go. So this just came in this morning, but there's like 4 of these lines that are showing up at the top of everyone's PRISM submission. And it's just, please confirm values is accurate. And then they give you a variety of PRISM buckets here. And they say, will you please confirm your values and our values? And sometimes these are the same, and sometimes they're not. So what you want to do is like this K10, you would match up to our K10 lines here. And then this K30, you would match up to our K30 line, and then K60 and the K. The issue with this one, just so you know, is that there is no K40. When we looked up the PRISM sheet for this year, there is no K40. So we need someone to reach out to for the PRISM team and say, what do you mean by K40? And if we can get that done soon, we can send that out to everyone else and say, just so you know, K40 means whatever it means. If someone has reached out to PRISM, does anyone know what K40 means? Okay. We're still pretty early, but this is, I think, kind of the last one here. Okay. Any other PRISM questions before I sort of keep going? So this machinery is more information only, less like take this home and you have to fix your files. It's more just trying to explain again how things work. So Gwen went over this a little bit, but we only allow machinery on this list of assessment codes on the left here. These are the assessment codes we allow machinery on. These are the 4 PRISM buckets that machinery goes to. There's 4 PRISM buckets. So if you put machinery on a 239, that's going to go to the 239 PRISM bucket. Same for the 491 and 492. Here's the difference. If you put machinery on any of these, 230, 422, 430, 431, 430, that's all going to go to the 431 PRISM bucket. And this was sort of in place for some of these before, but once we learned that it was being used, we dug into that and cleaned it up. So 431 is the most common machinery. That's like your other machinery, and we see it combined with other assessment codes all the time. You can split it up or not split it up. I'll show you what that looks like, but you now can combine it. So typically, each PRISM bucket needs its own record. 431 other machinery would be the exception. So we've got an example parcel A here where it's got 430 and a 431 and local dollars. That's for the building value is always going to go to what in this case is the 430. Then if you put machine into this 430 or any of these other ones, if you put machine into any of these here on the list, it's going to go into the 431 PRISM bucket. And then your land is going to go into the locally assessed land PRISM bucket. So this parcel could have 3 records. You could have a 430 for the building, a 431 for the machinery, and then another 430 for the land. Or you can combine them and have it like this. Some counties have a lot of 431 on other parcels and don't want the bajillions of records. So this is an option if you want to use it. Questions? So I went in and doctored, just because different people learn different ways, doctored that spreadsheet that we sent out. So the blue lines are still the lines that should be in your transmission transmission distribution subsystem. The green lines are the lines where the machinery goes to 431. So for all of them, your building value go to 230, your machinery to 431, your building to 422. So the building value is going to go to whatever that assessment code line is, machinery to 431. And then the only difference here is the 239, the machinery that's in the 239, that's going to the 239, which is like your K20. Is this color scheme helpful to you? Or do you look at this and say like, please get rid of the rainbow? Do you like the rainbow? I mean, does it list the colors someplace? Oh yeah, that's good. I should put like a little thing at the bottom. I can do that. I'll put a little thing at the bottom. Blue is transmission distribution subsystem. Green is machinery to 431. So then when we send it out, you will get the rainbow sheet. We're now going to call this the rainbow sheet. Okay. All right, so that's that for state assessed. Any questions before we move on? Jesse will be here, I think, like through lunch. So if you have questions, you can corner him or me. Otherwise, I'm going to pass on the mic. We have Valerie, who has been a wonderful new addition to our office, who's going to come up and share.
It's on. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Okay, so I've been with CPT for 3 months this week, so don't ask me any questions.
And I was a little derelict. I should have introduced you right away.
So, I'm going to walk through the assessor's New Year setup. So this sequence should have gone out to you this spring. Many of you have probably already done it. But if not, it's up to you when you want to do that in your office. So when you complete the sequence, then you can maintain your data for the assessment year 6, tax year 27. And one thing you need to remember is that you have to create all of your New Year CAMA land count files before you change your assessment year. So this process is done in the data processing menu, which on the main menu is number 4. And you'll go, that will bring up your tax MO2 menu that you see here at the bottom right. First thing that you need to do is rebuild your index file. This is should be done in your county every night. So you should be able to just go on to the next step, but if you've made any changes since the last time the files were built, then you'll want to redo that. And all of your users should be out of all the systems, sales ratio, CAMA, land count. So you go to option 10, end of day processing, and from there, option 1, rebuild your index files. I think that process takes a few minutes. The next step is to back up your tax files. That is option 11, and you'll get a message that says you want to make an online save. Just hit yes there. Process also takes a few minutes, and then you'll get the message at the bottom that says you have saved your files with an online save. All right. Then you want to actually update your assessment year. So you go into option 1, maintain your system file. And option 1 again, maintain general information, and you'll change your assessment year to 2026. But do not change the payable year at this point. So after you change that, press enter a couple of times, the changes are made, and then F3 to save, and then you'll have your new assessment year created. Then, you want to create your new year value file. Again, everyone should be out of the systems. Option 9, year-end processing. From there, option 1, create the new year files. And then when you get the prompt, you actually type the word create. What this does, copies the current year value files to create the new year value files. Changes your previous year files from 25, 26. Reorganizes all of your new year files, including removes the deleted taxpayers, parcels, value records. And this needs to be run locally, not in your job queue. The next step, the new year value reset. From here, you choose option 2. And when you're prompted, you type the word continue. In this step, all of your mid-year homesteads get changed to full year, zeros out new construction, changes the flat lot file, and your tax capacity values are calculated here. And then one thing that gets easily overlooked is to verify that your new files have actually, or new values have actually changed. So from inquiry, you can select a parcel that's either been a mid-year new construction or that's mid-year or any few parcels that you might want to check. In this case, I picked a new construction one. So in payable year, tax year 25, payable 26. You know what I'm saying? The new construction value was listed down here in the left corner. And then if you hit F8 at the bottom of your screen, you can toggle between the 2 years. And so in the new year, 26, 27, you can see that that value is cleared out of there. In the bottom left corner, I selected a mid-year homestead. So in the old year, it's reflecting choice code 5 for the mid-year. And then when you toggle F8 to the new year at the bottom of your screen, you can see that it changed to a full year homestead in the new year. So just, you can select whatever type of parcels you want to just do a quick check on. And then after that, again, you want to rebuild your index file so you can access your data via inquiry right away rather than waiting for the end of the day. So again, that's end of day processing and rebuild your files. Changing the new year. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more presentation before lunch, but we had a request for a bathroom break. So let's just take like 10 minutes here. And if you need to mill around or go to the bathroom, you can, and then circle back.
Dave takes down.
And I read the like
Got really fancy name tags, I guess. Huh? Must have got really fancy name tags.
Well, they gotta be, only word stick trim and market.
And just like the internet, you're super fancy too. Yeah, I did not.
It's like it's got a Netflix shortage.
Yeah, like I'm using my hotspot.
That's what I do.
Not just. I have no idea. But Mike had to go and reset it last week or whatever when all those
Mike's like bigger, they have like the top end.
Yeah.
They have to know the guys.
Nope. I tried to get onto the self internet and that password on Podium. I can cover the error too.
Hey, you have a bunch of chance of actually. I don't know. Yeah, those are, but they're not easy.
So maybe Susie, can you describe that error again? I don't exactly know I know the code.
All right, so remember we said there was like the K10, K20, it was the confirmed values for this list of Ks. And their K40 was on that list and it does not exist.
Yeah, so I emailed or James, James in the prison team. K40 does not exist. It is a typo. It's K20. Should be K20. James said he's gonna be correcting that review sheet to K20 from K40. So that's cleared up. Just wanted to point you out to, actually, before I do, I know Ryan doesn't like any attention. I don't really either. I don't see the spotlight, but Ryan and I are brothers. It's a very strange coincidence that we both ended up in assessment. No one seeks out being an appraiser or an assessor. We just kind of fall into it, and we both got like lucky to be become an assessor. I don't know how he feels. I don't know his honest feelings about being a brother to someone who works at DOR yet. But it's pretty cool that we're assessors and we have work calls from time to time. So, a couple things I wanted to share with you. So tax rates for utility and pipeline property, we do have a webpage designated for this. Again, the property type description field in our data that Susie had pulled up, that spreadsheet that you're probably all familiar with. Raise your hand if you've seen that spreadsheet that Susie had up for state assessed values. Okay, so most of you use it, familiar with it. One question that does come up from time to time is the confusion between the property type description field and the property name field that we have in that spreadsheet. I think that's here.
Yep.
So property type description indicates how the property is to be taxed, and that's what this web page is for, to highlight how the tax treatment and classification of state assessed utility pipeline property. The property name field is a free-form field that the companies can use to describe their property in more detail for their own purposes. We have had counties that have seen a property name, say like a distribution line or a rural distribution line here, and use that to help determine what the proper tax treatment is. This is not in our control. This is companies' self-reported information. It should not be used to indicate how the property is taxed or classed. It can be used, however, to at least play or question whether or not the right property type description is being used. So if like something says substation on it, maybe it's labeled as a distribution line record, for instance, that'd be a nice thing to like raise and question. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. So another resource I wanted to point out too, we're talking a lot about codes and a lot about like these general descriptions in state assessed. We have another web page, but we do have a web page for everything in state assessed. So this utility and pipeline property types web page kind of goes through each of our property types. We have pictures of a couple different property types, just to give you an idea of what these state assessed properties are. Some are obvious, but what might not be obvious is what is a distribution line or what is a transmission line? What's a high voltage transmission line? We go through that high level detail, but just so you guys are generally aware, distribution lines are delivering electricity to an end user. So residential customer, commercial customer, as long as it don't demand too much electricity, they're going to be tied to the distribution line. And then a transmission line is high voltage transmission line that is transferred to a lower voltage at a substation where a distribution line will meet up with that substation. So transmission line is carrying power from a power plant all across the state. So transmission lines, I will say too, like transmission lines, they're very, very high value, and there's a lot of new demand for transmission line in Minnesota. So you might not have transmission line today, but that might change in the future as there's a lot of growth for renewable energy, and that renewable solar and wind is all over the state. and our grid right now is not accommodating that very well. So our the overseer, the agency that oversees transmission line grid across the Midwest is MISO, and there's plans to put in, I think they have maps up, so you'll know when transmission line comes to your county. If you want to look at MISO and ISO, they have some maps of transmission line that's in the queue. Anyway, so we do have various descriptions, and the reason for these various descriptions are for the tax treatment and power line credit. Structures of state assessed. This is, I think, the most ambiguous or gray area when determining whether or not state assessed property should be locally assessed or state assessed. Like when I see this property is owned by, say, Xcel Energy, I might not know just by a visual whether or not it's state assessed or locally assessed. Other structures like a substation, housing equipment, a substation, fencing around the substation, that's very clear that those structures are state assessed. But when you run into buildings like this where it's unclear, reach out to us to make sure that those buildings are properly captured. I will say in our railroad, for our railroad records, that is a little bit different where we have a structure value. We have a similar spreadsheet for railroads. I won't pull it up, but probably if you've seen these before, you're familiar with it. But we do have a structure column for state assessed property. And if what is not, I've been teaching a lot of PACE courses. Maybe some of you have been to the PACE courses I presented at. One thing that we're considering adding in our railroad data is, so we have one record for a railroad company and we have a structure value. There's no indicator in our records that there's multiple structures consolidated in one record. So, and that matters because you can have railroad property on the same parcel, some state assessed, some locally assessed. County might not know if we're picking up certain properties, so we just want to ensure we don't have any omission of value on records or possible double assessment. Machinery, this is kind of runs the gamut. Most of the machinery is going to be in a structure, and this power plant machinery, generators, substation equipment. Okay, so this, I had one more thing I was going to add. Yeah, I just wanted to cover that. So it is part of an assessor's quintile review. So this matters in terms of identifying what property exists within your county. We as a state don't go out to these properties to see where these properties are, what new property is up and coming. So we depend on counties' eyes and ears on what's coming into your county. So when there's new property, feel free to reach out to us and review our records to make sure that we're capturing everything in state assessment. Yeah, but
When you say something where there's a structure on here and we don't know if it's a local or a state, who gives you that information?
yeah, the company is providing that information to us. You know,
There could be two sheds.
Yep.
How would you, like, it'd be nice if there's a picture of the shed that you're covering, that we know this is a shed not covered.
Yeah, in those cases, those are kind of a case by case thing where we have to investigate. You know, if there is a question that's raised by either the county or the company, we'll look into the use of that property. So the use matters, and anything that's operating property of a railroad company is going to be state assessed. If it's non-operating property, it's going to be locally assessed. And if we have kind of a different process for utility and pipeline than we do for railroad, if we have a disagreement among the county or company, parties can't agree that this is operating property, the department has the authority to issue a final determination to classify something as operating property. So you'll have very clear communication on what is included, in any circumstance, what we're assessing. But yeah, this is all self-reported information from the company. So like, we don't go through each of our records and look up an aerial and verify that, this structure is operating property. We're depending on the company and making sure that they're, or just accepting their returns as filed. They're saying this is their operating property. And to be honest, like, we don't have a lot of data besides what you see in a lot more data than what you see in that spreadsheet from the company. So we are often blind to it as well, on whether or not that property should be ours or local.
So if an assessor wondered if they were supposed to be assessing either of those structures, what should they do?
Contact us.
Contact
Yeah, contact state assess. Yep. Yeah, I guess that's all I think I wanted to say. I had something else, but if you have any other questions, I'll be here through lunch. Honor me, like Susie said, happy to answer questions.
Perfect, thank you. All right. I think we have Liz.
Everybody, I'll be talking about the cross-county sequence. Excuse me. The cross-county affects the tax capacity of homesteaded ag parcels. Also, that better? The first 3.8 million receives a lower tax rate, 0.50% versus 1.0%. And it ensures everyone receives the correct amount of ag credit. Note, only homesteaded parcels are to be put into the cross-county. The properties are not homesteaded. There is no reason to maintain them in the cross-county file. And first of all, make sure you complete your 2025 assessment. Your value should be up to date prior to sharing cross-county values with neighboring counties. And how to maintain and share your home county wide records. That'll be located in the assessor's office in tax M12, and option number 1, maintain carryover values. I'm sure you guys are well versed with these two menu options. And you always want to list your home county MP groups using the options below and share them with your neighboring counties. Data will help them calculate the correct tax capacities for their associated parcels. Make sure you prove your data before setting the final copy. These are the groups whose base parcels starts in your county. And on this menu option, you're always going to want to do it by county. Maintain your data as necessary using option number 1. Maintain the carryover values as shown on the previous screen. And the sequence numbers are used because some of the MP groups are connected to parcels in multiple other counties. For example, a farmer could farm on the corners of Grant, Douglas, Stevens, and Polk counties. So you have various different sequence numbers for those other counties. For the home county parcels, other counties should be added in the agreed upon order. The county second in line will be sequence number 1. The county third in line will be sequence number 2, and so on. To pull up a parcel, input your MP number, choice code should, the choice should be based on those numbers, your county number for the neighboring county you're working with, and the sequence number. When adding a new entry, field exit through that sequence number field to automatically add the next number. A new field will show and a message will appear asking you to input Y or no for the home county. On the maintenance screen, inputting the other county's MP number helps match their parcels to your parcels. Input the county's ag value needed for calculation of the ag credit correctly. If you have a second or third county with homesteaded ag value that should be used for calculation of the ag credit, input that information as sequence number 2, 3, etc. as shown in this screenshot. Once receiving and inputting cross-county values for home county and records, again, this is in tax M12, maintain your carryover values. To pull up a parcel, input your MP number, your choice code as shown, the county number for the neighboring county you're working with, and the sequence number. When adding a new entry, again, field exit through the sequence number, and it will automatically add the next sequence number. A new field will show and a message will appear asking you to input Y or no for home county. Once your neighboring counties provide you with their home county records, which are your N records, maintain them in your system. For the N parcels, only add the values for counties that come before your county. Those values will be used to calculate the correct tax capacity and ag credit if applicable. Input the information received from the home counties in the screen below, as shown right here. Then receive and input cross-county values for your home county and records. This is continued, of course. Once your neighboring counties provide you with their home county records, which are your N records, maintain them in your system. For the N parcels, only add values for counties that come before your county. Those values will be used to calculate the correct tax capacity and ag credit if applicable. And then if the site and house garage values are listed, they should be included in the land and building value in order to calculate correctly. Maintain and share county and records. Again, you're going to be in tax M12 in the maintain carryover values, and then you'll be listing them. You must share your home county and values with any third county as well as home counties. Sharing carryover values with the home county will ensure the auditors are calculating the correct amount of ag credit. They're in the same listing as the third county records. Generate and share them. If you are not the home county, our system will assume that cross-county values inputted come before yours. Therefore, if you're county number 2 out of 3 for an MP group, you will only input the first county's values. You must share your info with the third county, but will not input their values. To use your tax billing system to share this information, add the third county with $1 in the land value along with the third county's number. Incoming county sequence number is number 1 and the outgoing is number 2. Your county's info is in your files, not in the cross-county system. Provide this listing to the respective neighboring county assessors. Run the listing by county option number 2. And you will have a page ranked by county for easy sharing. In multi-county situations, it's often helpful to put the largest home county N county early in the sequence right after the home county to ensure ag credit is used up for the first 2 counties. Note, in multi-county situations, MP inquiry will show 2 other counties tied to your parcels. A $1 value in MP inquiry should mean that the county comes after yours. Receiving and inputting cross-county values for home county Y records. Again, tax M12, maintain carryover values. You'll need to update other county ag val for home county Y records as you receive them from the neighboring counties. These values ensure ag credits will calculate correctly for your auditors. And then calculate your tax capacity. Make sure you have completed the above steps before running your assessor's tax capacity calc and abstract sequence. These numbers should be as up to date as possible before giving your auditors their final abstract, especially before TNTs or tax statements are run. And this is the menu option for tax capacity values, but I'm sure you guys all know that by heart, running that option. And then here's some information about the ag market value credit. Kind of touched base a little bit before, but the credit equals 0.3% of the first 115,000 of the property's agricultural credit market value plus 0.1% of the property's ag credit market value in excess of 115,000. The credit reaches a maximum of $490 at a market value of $260,000 and then levels off. The max credit is not reduced. Points to remember, share your home county wide values, which are your values, with your neighboring assessors. Receive your home county end values, which are their values, from the neighboring assessors. Share your home county end values. Oh my gosh, that's a mistake there. I did that right, sorry.
You said no, it's also.
Perfect. And then the others, share your home county wide excess ag credit with the neighboring others. Remember, or receive home county and, receive home county and excess ag credit from the neighboring auditors. Think of each cross-county group as a whole rather than an individual parcel. An individual group may be a home county and group to you, the same group as a home county Y group to the neighboring county. The parcels within the group may be located in either county. Throughout this sequence, whenever we refer to home county Y or N, we are referring to a group from your perspective. This is important to keep in mind when communicating with neighboring counties regarding cross-county values. The neighboring county is providing you with the values for their home county N records, which are usually associated with your home county Y records. How's that for cross-county? A lot of Y and N and yeah, it's a lot, it's kind of wordy. All right, I'm gonna go through system edits and prism edits as well. The system edits can be run as often as desired, but a minimum of before and after tax capacity calculation is recommended. The system edits display both warning and terminal error messages. Terminal errors must be corrected because they will cause problems at some point. Warning messages are as is. They may or may not need to be corrected. System edit 1 examines every parcel individually for problems with ag or assessment codes, market value, numbers, acres, descriptions, etc. Recommend you running it with this criteria. Option number 2, edit tax capacity value, should be a yes on that one. The following terminal errors may be found. MP number deleted, invalid assessment code, green acres greater than estimated, etc., etc. The ones starred are the ones that need more attention to. Tax capacity value found greater than total, homestead tax capacity values, and non-homesteaded assessment, tax capacity values total not equal to breakdown, and the market value, but no tax capacity value. So this is where you're gonna wanna put that option 1 in that second question, edit tax capacity values. That's where that 1 is going to give you the greater in-depth errors on the starred ones. The below warning errors may be found, and you may not want to prove all of them at once. To prove them individually, place an X in front of the options that you want to do. For this example, I kept them all because I wanted to see them all. And when I ran this on my test file, I think I had 1,000 errors, but that's my test file only because I included everything. Inputting the values that are blue and above may be changed for the below errors to list desired outputs. You can go ahead and change your market value or your building and land value. I did 9999 just so it would capture everything. Going on to system edit 2, again found in tax M11, option number 20. System edit 2 checks multi-parcel groups for primary choice codes, duplicate choice codes, homestead codes, etc. The following terminal errors may be found: no primary choice code or multiple primary choice codes. The below warning errors may be found: duplicate choice codes, homestead codes differ, mobile homes attached, assessment codes differ, or no primary choice code found. Prism edits. Prism edits may be run as often as desired and should always be run prior to Prism submission. They compare data to likely be found on Prism issues. If you choose not to fix an edit, know you may need an explanation ready for the Prism team should they flag that parcel. Prism edits are listed, found in menu taxon 12, option number 10. And you have the option of running your listing 6 different ways. The first one is acre edit between tax and land calc. This lists the agriculture records whose land calc and tax acres don't match. If the reason is because they don't exist in land calc, that is noted. And you'll see on this example, on the right-hand side says no land calc info found. Option number 2, land edit between tax and land calc lists ag records whose land calc and tax values don't match. Every land calc class must transfer codes designated for residential commercial flag and ag flag on the below screen. Once you choose your options, make sure you do the F5 to generate the listing below. Option number 3, valid state codes assessment code lists records records with questionable land calc and state class combinations. And this listing shows those examples. Option number 4, ag class, no deed or tillable acres, lists agriculture records that have no acreage listed in the tax. And you can see by this example. Option number 5, building site edit lists agriculture records whose land calc and tax building site values don't match. And you can see on this example too, the discrepancy. Option number 6, green acres value edit listing. It lists agriculture records whose land calc and green acres values don't match. That's it. All right, any questions on those system edits or Prism edits?
You go.
System 1 or 2?
2.
Okay.
Right there.
Okay.
So one of the options here is, okay, duplicate choice codes differ. There's sometimes where it's absolutely necessary. A vet homestead, for example. Custom code, a homestead code. You're gonna have 7 on the first one and 1 as regular homestead. Is that ever gonna be an error? And if not, can the system ignore it? Another example would be a parcel with an egg and rural vacant on the same line. So you have a 101 and a 120, it's gonna say assessment code's different. Is that ever gonna be there? And if not, can they not show up?
So both the ones you're talking about are warning errors. And if you put an X in front of them, they won't show up.
I want to know if there's other options. We have 7,000 acres that have a second plan. I'm not going through it. I'm not going to find actual errors, so I'm not messing around.
So you're saying you're getting 7,000 of those errors listing and you can't find any real errors in the middle of the 7,000?
I'm saying.
Yeah, you're just not gonna look. You're gonna put an X there, you're never gonna list that.
I'm sorry. Valuation notices, if we do a class change. Are you talking about something more like that? Well,
Like you just look at the homestead codes different. If someone would disabled that their homestead codes is set on their primary parcel. So now all of those disabled that's multiple parcels are showing up as a warning. When in reality,
You know, behind the scenes, we put a 7 on.
options are shown up here. And I can put 7 in if I wanted to, I was under the impression that only the first parcel has stuff.
Okay.
We can 7 the whole first. Once.
Okay, so is that the only thing, but we are talking more about, the assessment codes where you have the 101 codes.
Okay.
You have way more of those than that. So, and back to the class change, we look at that. If it's like a 100 class. And don't blame that as class change. So you're kind of talking about the same thing, because you don't.
Thing,
And it should.
right, so like when you ask for the record, you'll have one in there,
Mhm.
where it's just nuisance, because.
So we don't mark that, we don't mark that on the valuation order as class change, and we should mark it here as a warning, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes. That's what I'm trying to say.
Same thing. My husband and I do that all the time. Anyway, yeah, just send those to us and we'll try and, is that like the only example or
I'm just saying, if things go together, it shouldn't be.
So the assessment codes differ error. If the assessment codes are like similar related, you want them to not list as assessment codes differ. I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads.
Give me the option right after that, they include it with the exception of 101/120. I want to see.
So that would get a little more difficult.
Now we're talking new menus, which I know even as a non-programmer is a thing.
If you guys want to decide which ones work together and are not a problem.
So what we probably do is go down to the valuation notices and gather up those that we don't mark as different, even though they are actually different class codes. And send that back out to you all. And make sure that that's what you're talking. And then do it.
So we'll send a list out to see like, these are the ones we're gonna not list unless assessment codes differ. Is there anything that anyone disagrees with? If you want to see it listed, speak up at that point. So that's the assessment codes differ. And then what was the duplicate? No, what was the other one you had a question about? Homestead codes differ.
Yeah, we do that with the vets.
Do the like if the homestead code differ, if it's a 7 and a 1, we don't care. If it's a 1 and a 0, we want that to flag for you just in case you're like, oh, I changed a whole bunch of them, but I forgot to change that one. You want to see that, but you don't want the vets to be on there.
I didn't know.
That isn't really actually, that's more of a question of how Prism wants. So that's why we do it behind the scenes, so that Prism.
It's easier to exempt them.
Yeah. If that would be a thing, that would be great. But I totally understand about the assessment codes differ. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
We'll change that too.
we'll look at that, send it out.
Yeah, well, so we'll send it out. We'll let you guys all prove it and give your input, you know, speak now or forever hold your peace. And then once we hear back, we'll make that change and let you know. Anything else? If not, it's time to break for lunch. So will we take an hour, 45 minutes? What do we want to do? Since we're all staying here 45 minutes, we'll be back at 12:30. We'll talk about choice codes. I'm going to go through Prism, both of your abstracts and report generator. Who in the back, for those of you on Zoom, will be back around 12:30. And then move forward with our afternoon. Talking about choice code.
Hey, that's far.
The information that I found here is, a lot of it is in your assessment code booklet. And some of it has been changed and updated, but I thought I would just explain this and let you ask any questions, because sometimes what makes sense to me doesn't make sense to other people. So choice code groups, just kind of as a background, our typical choice code rules, most of our assessment codes are going to reset state tiers by choice code group. What that means, what we mean when we say state tiers is like if you're looking at the sheet of data, SS 25 or SS 26 or whatever, here are our tiers. So if we're looking at 1A, which is going to be a lot of your 201s, right? 2011. This first 500 over 500s, that resets by group. So all of your 201s that are in the 0 group are going to go toward that first tier, and then the 100 group and the 200 group. You're probably familiar with this. That's kind of the standard rule. There are a couple of choice codes that always reset by value record. For us, that's not choice codes, assessment codes. That's assessment codes 151 and 207. They always reset by value record. That's going to be the state's 4BB3, so the condominium storage, and the 4C12, the seasonal rec. Those are the two, and again, it says this in your assessment codes booklet, that always reset by value record. Then we have what I call a combo rule. This tends to be our commercial codes, but they will, if you look at this underlined part here, they will carry over between value records for choice codes greater than 99, but they reset by value record for choice codes between 1 and 99. Something to keep in mind here is that the state allows for one preferred rate per entity per county. So they get that 150, the first $150,000 of value for that, at that preferred rate, one per entity per county. That is talking about this 3A, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples about that. Just keep in mind that 107 zeros, 201 zeros, and 232 zeros, they also follow this combo rule where they reset by value record 1 through 99, and then they reset by choice code group over 99. So when we're looking at this 3A, we're talking about this first 150, where it's going at 1.5 and then at 2.0. Any of these assessment codes that are subject to this 3A first 150 rule, any of these assessment codes listed, they should have choice codes greater than 100. You do not want to give these 99s. And I'm going to show you why. So I don't know how many times I've heard since I started here, if it's non-homesteaded, you can just make it a 99. That works great for like ag or real estate. If I say something wrong, Gwen, you have a microphone that you can just talk over the top of me. But when we're talking about commercial, that's the wrong rule of thumb to follow for these that follow the combo. So if we're looking here, this is one MP group. All of these are MP together. They've all got my assessment codes that are in my 3A. And if you give them a 99, we're going to give them the 150 per record. So they're going to get that 150 on every record that you have in there. So they're getting a total of 625 instead of a total of 150. Now, if you were to put them over 100 and you put them in order, then we take them in order and we apply that 150 until you run out of 150 and then they get no more. Make sense? I'm going to keep going. We can circle back to any of this. This is where this came up when we were talking about transmission lines. And even if you follow the rules, you can see here, we followed the rules. We've got assessment codes that are in our combo rule. We've got them in this nice choice code order, and somehow we're still getting over 150. And that's because one of these is a transmission line. Now, while we're talking about this, keep in mind, this does not include machinery because machinery is not subject to that 150. It all goes with the 2%, right? But if we look at this, I am highlighted in blue because blue is our transmission distribution subsystem. This parcel right here, that's listed second, this is in your transmission distribution subsystem. And the reason we tell you to put these transmission lines at the end is because we calculate their tax capacity after real estate. So when you run that option 3 TC calc, our program is looking at all your white parcels. It does not see these blue transmission distribution parcels, and it gave you that 150. Then after you do real estate, we will calculate transmission distribution. Transmission distribution, when you calculate that, it assumes you've already done a real estate. And wherever your real estate left off, that's where transmission distribution is going to pick up. So when we went into transmission here, it said, well, you have 25,000 left, so it gave you 25,000. This is why anything that's in that subsystem, I don't care whether the state calls it a transmission line or not, if it's in that subsystem, we calculate the TC later. We assume you've already done your real estate TC. You want that at the end of your choice code group so that you don't have that extra. Here you can see we moved that parcel to the end of the group, and we're not going to get that 175 because we've run out of the preferred rate by the time we get to transmission. Carl.
Is this in a warning somewhere that we could see where if a parcel or an MP group is getting more than 180,000?
But there is no warning about MP groups that might be going over. In the assessment codes booklet, it's more directives. And the assessment codes booklet, where it tells you what to do, we say, we suggest starting your real estate commercial parcels around like 110 and starting your transmission lines at like 180. So then you know if it's 180, 190, this is the transmission line. All of your transmission lines go at the end. You will never run into this problem.
Does MP inquiry or what are the inquiries bring in transmission?
She's wondering if MP inquiry brings in transmission lines. So if you go into, for sure, whatever, you take a 23 and then you take a 7, this is how my brain works. If you go into your extra and you're doing that like MP link up, your transmission lines pull in there. So you can go in there and you can move them to the end. But I don't know of any listings. An MP inquiry might show them. I don't think there's any listings that pull transmission lines. Yeah, you could view them in MP inquiry.
We'll have to check.
So there's nothing that's going to flag this for you. This is one of those things that's like changed over time. And so it's kind of like that. If you have that 425 assessment code, you can't have something else on it. There's something that flags that. There maybe almost should be. I'm making these notes, especially for like when we have our new system, as they're doing that. Like, how do we see some of these? Now, some of these things, like the 425s, we're not quite ready to do that because we're still getting clarification about what that means and what that looks like. How many of you, here's the other thing that my brain is processing right now, because, well, so to calculate your county-wide tax capacity, you take an option 3, you calculate your tax capacity. Then to calculate your transmission line tax capacity, you need to go into your transmission line subsystem, pull up the valuation maintenance and close out. That will calculate the tax capacity for all of your transmission lines. Before you run T&Ts, before you run tax, that needs to be done. You need to calculate your tax capacity. Then after you calculate your tax capacity, you know, to go into your transmission line valuation maintenance, open and close. How many of you, your auditor does your transmission line valuation maintenance and they are going to like cut off your left hand if you try to do it? I see 1, 2. I will say this, in your new system, you are going to have fast access to that option. That option is really like your job, because you go in there and you're changing MP numbers and you're changing MP groups. And every county that I've talked to, I've been like encouraging auditors to give this to the assessor because they
You have to give it even.
You still have to,
Get that.
yeah, you have to get access to it. But this is a good time to transition that from the auditor to the assessor. If you're willing to have that conversation, I'm happy to have that conversation with counties. Why I explain. I have yet to talk to an auditor where I say like, look, this is what they're doing. They're gonna go in, they're gonna look at the MP number, they're gonna look at the choice code group. If you make the wrong choices on these, you're giving too much tax credit to these taxpayers. So like, you can be in charge of that, or you can just let your assessor do it. Every auditor's like, hell yeah. Because this is really like, to you, it's just a few extra parcels and it's easy. For them, it's like a different language, right? Going into valuation maintenance. So I think that needs to be added to your sequences. This is something that we added in like January of this year. So it's very new and we're still trying to figure out who's doing what. And then we learned through tax, we put it in the auditors sequences for their taxes last spring, and then we found out that a lot of them don't have access to it, so that was an issue. So we're open to input about like how that would work, but to me, it makes sense to have you guys doing it.
Go into the transmission line module. There's only a couple codes we can use.
In the transmission distribution subsystem, everyone except Lake of the Woods is only going to be using 421s and 454s.
Real estate anywhere?
Those are not allowed in real estate anywhere.
The state recognize that those two codes automatically get a statewide tax rate. Ever be transition line module? Why can't those codes alone trigger a tax rate?
Well, okay, so he's saying like, could we just put 421s and 454s into real estate? And real estate knows if it's a 421 or a 424, it's a transmission line and it just automatically goes. I don't know when the programming brain is twirling. The issue that I see with that is that technically 422s, 425s, and 428s also are transmission lines, but the 422s and 425s can be both. So then the only way we can designate is by where they're put. Or adding a new assessment code, which is Gwen's favorite thing in the world. Not, she says.
I did this last week and I had 4 sessions. So I could do everything without closing or reopening. Lots to go for transmission line to real estate.
They're saying it's a lot to go back and forth and complicated to be in and out.
For valuing a parcel and coding a parcel, why can't one be in the screen do that?
Gwen's still thinking about this combination suggestion. Well, she'll look at that. She said she's gonna have to look at transmission lines and see if there's any other differences. You know, that's a good thought. Can we do that, or can we somehow like, they're not gonna do that. How to say it out loud? I can't remember. Does anyone remember what I was gonna do when I ended the show? I don't remember what I was gonna do. Okay, so that's the biggest thing for choice code groups is understanding that commercial rule that you do not want to use 99s and why we want to put the transmission lines at the end of the group. Carl, I answered your question not the way you wanted it answered. If you had any follow-up thoughts, no?
Well, I just think that if there's a warning that we have more than what's allowable, there should be some sort of warning in there that say, hey, these parcels are all over your $180,000. Or if you have more than $480 of pay credit on a parcel, there should be a listing that shows that there's more credit there than what's allowable.
I was wondering if we need a listing that shows if there's like more than 490 ag credit, or if we can get a listing that shows that there is like more preferred rate than is technically allowed. It'd have to be an MP, it'd have to be like a system edit 2, because that's where we do our MP edits.
Well, again, we have to keep on.
Yeah, I'd have to combine with transmission lines, which gets complicated. Valerie, are you writing all this down? Valerie's job today is anytime we say, we'll look into that, she's writing it down. Because otherwise, Gwen and I go back and we're like, what did we say we were gonna do?
Just watched it over again.
Yeah. No way are you gonna get me to watch myself present all afternoon. Never gonna happen. Okay. So your fall mini abstract. We're doing this in our 2025, 2026 files. If you have two sets of files on, make sure you're using 25, 26 files. The steps for the fall mini abstract, I went through this in detail last time. I'm not going to this time. The first step is preparation. Make sure you have your line count data updated. You want your tax data updated. You're going to run through your system edits and your prism edits that Liz walked you through this morning. And then the last thing you want to do is your transmission line subsystem. Make sure that's up to date. In a perfect world, you would run your, well, this one doesn't really matter because we don't do tax capacities for the fall mini. I will go into a little detail about your flood exclusion file. That's one of the things that's in this sequence. We have a few counties that added flats for the first time. So let me just walk you through this. If you go into valuation maintenance and you type flat into your quick access in the bottom right, you'll pull up your flat exclusion maintenance window. You want to make sure that this green land value, which is like your true land value, less the exclusion amount, and this is the amount that we like recalculate for you every year, and it'll walk down till it goes away, equals your taxable land. And what will happen is if you did like a % increase, decrease on your land, this green land value is going to go up and down, but because we have this parcel platted, your red value is not going to change, and you need to physically change that red value. You're not going to change your land value. You're not going to change your exclusion amount. It is this arrow red field that you are going to adjust. So this is what I suggest. You look at your land value, less your exclusion amount, and whatever this output is, that's what you put into your taxable land. Now you ask me, how do we find our plat? That's where we give you this option section 13, option 12. It's going to list your plat exclusion file. It's not going to tell you which ones you need to change. It's going to tell you all of the parcels you need to check. These are the parcels that are subject to that plat exclusion rule. So you just go through one by one, you update that taxable land, and then you should be good to go with your plat exclusions. Jason.
So as long as we don't increase our land values, that number rolls through automatically.
Right, if you don't make any like % increase, decreases to your land values, if your land value stays the same, this updates automatically every year and it will give you the correct amount. Like this will be correct. You will not have to change anything if you have not increased or decreased your land value. So the first year, so we'll walk you through this here. The first year, we see almost all 7-year plats in our counties. We see almost no 3-year plats, maybe actually no 3-year plats. So the first year, you're going to look at what your land value was before it was platted and what your land value was after it was platted. And you're going to look at the difference. And that difference is going to be applied to that parcel 1/7 at a time over 7 years. So that first year, you take 1/7 of that difference, you add it to the original value, and you put that here in your taxable land field. The other 6/7 of that difference, you put into the exclusion amount. So 1/7 is going to be added to the original value. It'll go up by that. 6/7 goes here, and then your new land value goes into land. When you make a new year, we copy this information into the new year. And then when you do your new year value reset, we go in and we take the appropriate fraction, depending on the year, of this exclusion amount. We put it into your taxable land amount. So your taxable land amount is going up by what would originally have been 1/7. You know, the next year is going to be 1/6, and then 1/5, and then up the exclusion amount. And by 7 years out, it will all be in there. Clear as mud? Perfect. Okay. Next thing you do is you accumulate to your mini abstract, tax sum 12, option 6. You're going to go in, you're going to take a 2 for fall. When you do that, it's going to have you do this setup where you're looking at your line count classes and you're telling it what abstract item number it goes to. We're gonna use everything from the previous year, but if you made a new land calc class, you have to tell it where to go on your abstract. If you have one that's empty, we're gonna give you an error message that says you have to input at least one value. You have to have a 2A or a 2B. Now, if you have land that's 2A and 2B, you need to put both. We'll find that later, but you're gonna wanna put both in if you have 2A and 2B land. But you have to do at least one. So if you put your cursor on whatever line you want to fill in and you hit F2, it will tell you what your options are. These are the options that you can send it to. And you can choose from these. You can also use this to reference. I mean, here, it's saying 40 is going to first acre. This is what it looks like. If you're wondering which of these it goes to, looking at your mini abstract reference document, and saying like, which one of these do I really want it to go to? That's what you would do. You'd pull up that reference document, you'd say, oh, this is whatever, and you send it to that abstract line item. The other thing you can do is you can look at your land calc transfer, because if in your land calc transfer, you're sending it to building, then you want to be sending it to that first acre. If you're sending it to land, you want to send it to land. If you're sending it to tillable, you want to send it to tillable. Make sure that those two are working together for you. Once you put that in, it's going to accumulate. You will get 3 edit listings. The first edit listing is by parcel, and it'll show you when you've got a difference in land value and or the difference between your tax land and your land calc land. The second edit listing is township, and it's looking at item numbers 30, 160, and 280. Again, those are pulling from a variety of land calc and tax. So hopefully, if you have a difference by township in your second edit listing, you have an associated difference by parcel in your first edit listing, and you can use the two of them to prove each other. Your third edit listing looks different. It gives you a bunch of parcels and a bunch of codes. Now, these first 2 edit listings, you want them to be empty. You want to make sure that they're balanced and you look good. This third one is probably never going to be empty because some of these are just heads ups. So let's look at what they are. The first edit, land count not found, tax values used. This is an ag assessment code. You don't have it in land count, so we use your tax data. Very often with that, you'll get that second one, which is tax record item 73. That means we use the taxes, and the difference between land and tillable, we put into 73. So your tillable went into, 60 is tillable? Whatever tillable is. And then the rest of it, we put into 73 other productive land. Just if you're looking for that land, that's where it is. The third type is additional HGA values in column 35 and 40. So that's saying like, this is not a zero choice code. However, you had HGA on it, so we're sending it to your house and garage in your first acre. If you're looking for it, that's where it's going to be. The next one, fractional HGA values, NH part number 180 or NH. That means there's a homesteaded and a non-homesteaded part. This is a fractional homestead. We're going to send the homestead to the 35 and the 40, and the non-homestead part is going to line item 180. These last 2 you are going to want to fix. Land calc values, no state class. That means when you were in land calc, you made this class, you put a value on here, but you didn't tell us whether it was 2A or 2B, meaning it's not pulling into your abstract. You're going to want to go into that part, a value record, and you're going to want it to give us a state class. This is not technically allowed, so like if you did this, great job with your magic wand, but this is not a good thing. This one, the land calc record, has state class, but no abstract number. That means you did this, you put it into land calc, you gave it a state class, but in your setup, you didn't give us an abstract number. So again, this value is not going into your abstract unless you go back and you tell us for this, what abstract number do you want us to pull it to? And then land calc and tax site values are not the same. That's just a heads up. Those should be on your first 2 edit listings if the land calc and the tax values are not the same. Once you do that, you list your abstract. So just so you know, on this abstract, this column on the left that I have highlighted in red, those values are pulling from land calc. The rest of the abstract, these three columns on the right, all of that is pulling from tax. So if you're looking at where these things came from, these are land calc data. The rest of this is data that's pulling from tax. We're talking about proofing our abstract, and this is something I had a lot of assessors call about, so I'm going to walk through it in just a little more detail. But if you're looking at your mini abstract, just a few fields here, and thank you to some assessors who walked me through how they prove this so that I can share with newbies. But especially that left column, that's pulling land calc data, right? So if you do like a valuation listing, your valuation listing is pulling your tax data. So your 10 land on your abstract is likely to match your land total on your valuation listing. Your 20 buildings on your abstract should match your buildings and your valuation listings. Your house and garage should match your house and garage, and your first acre should match your building site. Tillable would match tillable. Now, I don't know if you were actually looking at the numbers, but not all of those matched. So say your tillable does not match your tillable, which is the situation here. The tip I was given on like a great way to look for that is to look at your tillable acres. Do your acres match your acres? Probably they won't. So we know here we're looking for 7 acres. It might be easier to find 7 acres than to find however many $1,000s of value when you're looking for the differences. And what I was told is that very often we're looking in like paper books or updates or like, what did we update one place that we didn't update another place so that our values don't match? Now, if we go back to the top, if your land doesn't match your land, this is going to be a more common thing. And I'll show you why. So you want to find the difference. So we've got, what do we have? In tax, we have $23,200 more than we pulled into the abstract. Why would that be? If you look at your mini abstract reference, it says we're pulling in all assessment codes except 211, 230, 235, 239, and those over 400. So if that difference is found in those assessment codes, then we're not actually off, then we match. Your land calc and your tax match. So what I did to find this was I went to assessment summary and I listed my assessment summary for that township that was off. And I'm looking for these codes. And I found I had a 230, a 235, a 430, a 455. Now, the valuation listing does not list codes over 500. So once I get to 500, I don't care because that's not on either of our listings. So we're just looking for these codes that are going to be in our valuation listing, but not in our abstract. So what I did is then I put these codes that are listing in my township back into my valuation listing. From my assessment summary back to my valuation listing, I went by township, by assessment code, and I put in those codes that I found, and by golly, my land value was 23,200. If you remember, we were off by 23,200. If your land value for those codes that's not supposed to be pulling in is 23,200, you match. Same thing for building. Building, you're gonna look and see how much you're off. The rules for building are the same as the rules for land. We're pulling in building values except this list. So the same list that I got works. I ran my valuation listing and my building's off by 800, which was the difference I was looking for. So that's just a way to prove your data. If you're still really off, my suggested next spot to look is at your land calc transfer and your abstract accumulation. So if in your land calc transfer you say this is going to building site, then it should be going to building site, which is like your 40 is your first acre, that's your building site. if you're saying over here in your, and I messed this up on purpose, just in case you wondered. If you're saying over here that they're going to this 40 building site, but if you're saying in your land count trench that you're going into land, then it's your tax and your land count are not going to match because you told land count to send it to here in tax, and then you told it to send it here in the abstract. You want to go look at those and make sure if you're transferring from tax from land count to tax, you're telling it to go to the same place as you're telling it to go in the mini abstract. And Jeff is more of our land count to tax transfer guru, and I am more of the abstract mini accumulate guru. So like if you're having problems, we might have to have an office party to teach each other how this works. But we are happy to do that. Holler our way. Okay, so that's kind of proofing your left-hand column. What can you do for this right-hand column? You can, compare to a previous year and make sure nothing looks totally off, so you're not like using fat finger or something. If you're wondering where this purple box comes from, that's our new improvements. You can go to your valuation listing and list option 7, new construction only. That should show you, that should pull the new improvement data. If you're wondering where these plat values come, again, that plat listing we talked about before, that's going to show you the parcels that are pulling into the plat listings. Those are kind of 2 common areas that people are looking at in terms of looking at data and making sure everything doesn't look goofy. That's it for my thoughts on the mini. Any questions before I move on to your final abstract? Yeah.
Just to clarify on the transmission line tax capacity.
Yeah.
On the other side, we need to go into a parcel. We need to save it and then back out so that it'll run that for all of them.
So transmission line tax capacity, how do we calculate transmission line tax capacity? You don't actually, you have to, so in tax valuation maintenance, if you go and you open a record in valuation maintenance, and then you get out of it, we calculate tax capacity for the NP group that record is attached to when you leave. What we changed in transmission line valuation maintenance is when you open it and you leave transmission line valuation maintenance, we calculate tax capacity for all transmission lines. So that's what we set up last year because it needed to be done separately, and so you don't actually have to open a value record. What screen do you have to get to? You just have to go in and go out. Just the first one set. You just have to get in. When you leave valuation maintenance, it will calculate TC for all your transmission lines. And when I send the TNT sequence to the auditors, I will send you an email saying, by the way, your auditor is going to call you because they not want to get started on their TNTs, and you're going to want to give them your final abstract. And after you calculate your final TCs, well, I put you on the spot here, but in that, when they're doing that, they probably want, because transmission lines pull into the final abstract, correct? No. Okay, so it doesn't matter for your final abstract. So, yeah. And she said that's what worries her about putting them into real estate valuation maintenance is they don't pull into your abstract. They don't. So it doesn't so much matter. Yeah. It's just before your auditor starts calculating their taxes, you would want to give them your final abstract, and then someone needs to go in and calculate the TCs for those transmission lines. And I will tell them that when we send them their TNTs. And at the same time, I'm going to tell you hey, I sent the auditors their TNT sequence. They're going to be looking for the final abstract, which is this sequence. And then make sure after you run it, somebody goes in and calculates TCs for transmission line. Okay. Good questions. Anything else we're thinking about now? Then there's abstract. So there's 2 times you would want to do this, well, 3 times, but 2 situations. We suggest that you run through the sequence before you submit PRISM 2 because we include tax capacities in PRISM 2, and so this is a good tax capacity proof. Do you actually need your abstract for PRISM 2? No, but all the prep work that you do for this, you want it to be as up to date as you can get it so that your PRISM 2 data is what the state is looking for. When you will circle back to this is anytime your assessor, your auditor asks for your quote, final abstract. This is your final abstract. They'll ask for it before T&Ts and then they'll ask for it again before tax statements. So again, preparation, splits, combines, assessment codes, values, MP numbers, carryover values, tax increment, increase, decrease, plat. There was a document that we put together that I think I got from counties and then other counties added to, that was like that 2-page finalizing your files for your final abstract. The suggestion of like all the options to run in the system, all the things to prove. That is now, I don't know if you noticed, but it's an appendix to the sequence. So that's at the end of the sequence. Whether you run that before T&Ts is, you know, kind of your choice, but that's a really good, like, how do I proof my files and make sure I've checked all the boxes before you like sign off on taxes. So then you're going to want to calculate your tax capacity. When you calculate tax capacity, there's 4 possible edit listings that show up in your spool file. If there's anything listing on those that you don't understand, please call us. The most common thing we see is that there's no TC calculated. And you probably know those odd parcels in your county that are not going to have TC calculated because they're a mini parcel that's connected with a bigger parcel that gets homestead credit and it eats up the homestead credit. So that tiny record has no TC or something like that. But otherwise, these really should be empty. And if they're not, let us know. Oh, flat lot parcels, that actually is going to list all your flat lot parcels. If anything looks goofy, let us know. Okay, then once you do your TC, you want to go back after your final tax capacity calculation and run the system edit. You can do this terminal only if you want to, but we want you to look at that, taking that one, like Liz said, where you're editing your tax capacity values to make sure that you don't get anything goofy before you move on. Another thing you can look at is taking that 23 to go into your tax C10 and taking an option of 11, MP listing tax capacity values. You would be looking at this net tax capacity to see if anything looks off. You'd also want to look for any of these warnings. Typically, if you have a warning here, it's related to a system edit. If there's a parcel that showed up here as a warning, it showed up in one of your system edits as well. This one should have been my system edit because there's no primary choice code. My choice code starts at 1 for this. So that was in a system edit too. Once you've done that, you're ready to accumulate your abstract. When you accumulate your abstract, we do like a quick TC calculation. We don't do everything, so we still want you to run your option 3 TC calc, but we do a quick TC calc, so you may get some of those edits showing up in your spool file again. You also could get a parcel differential listing or an invalid detail taxing district listing. Again, if you get those, contact us. We need to look at something. After that, you list your abstract. There are lots of different ways to list your abstract. How you do it is up to you. We suggest listing it by all the ways, except maybe state copy, which is just kind of a duplicate, and saving these files, because more and more we're getting offices calling us and saying, we have our auditor here and they want our abstract from 3 years ago. How do we get this thing listed? And the answer is, that's a huge headache. How badly do they really need it? But if you had it as a PDF, your auditors would be so happy with you. So we're now suggesting that you list it always and save those copies. How would you proof this abstract compared to previous year? Use our reference document. You can use some of the listings to look at things. We're not seeing people proofing these quite as much, but it is good to look at. Now, if things change from the previous year, remember that MP and choice codes are going to affect tax capacity. We've done a lot of MP and choice code changes, so that's going to change a lot. Also, when the state raises that first year of ag, that affects tax capacity, so you're going to see that difference too. Now, if you have questions on a particular line in your abstract, It might be easier to track down where that's coming from by going in and taking this first line. Do you wish to print market values in place of tax capacities? If you say yes, you'll get the market values on that line, and it's a little easier because that's what we pull a lot of other places in evaluation listing or whatever. It can sometimes be a little easier to track those things down if you're listing by market values instead of tax. Okay, once your mini abstract and your abstract look good to you, then you're ready to submit Prism 2. You will notice that this year, in previous years, your Prism 2 sheet said to run all your Prism edit listings. It doesn't say that anymore because we put those Prism edit listings in your mini abstract sequence. So make sure, now the Prism sequences, make sure you finished your mini abstract sequence. So make sure you ran those Prism edit listings in your mini abstract sequence before you submit your Prism 2. And that's it. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you, think about if you have any questions, I gotta get this pulled up. If you have questions, or if there's something else you want us to cover, I'm gonna pull up our new report generator. So in our new report generator, we have something called an options page. And this options page shows you everything that you put in to make this report. And it's a really nice way to be able to share information between counties or share reports between counties. Is that I should be able to take this report with the information that's given here, and I should be able to put it into my report generator and get the same output. Now, I found a report that I know I helped this county build. And I remember them talking about like how helpful this is going to be because they get these requests all the time. And it would be nice to just be able to click this button and get it out. But I did not then like try to go back in and build this. So this is my first time trying to build it with you here today. I'm gonna let that load. It takes a minute to load and then it works pretty slick. Okay, so this section is going to be the last thing that we put in. We're going to start with fields. I'm gonna close some of these. Hold on now. No. Okay. So I'm gonna do new report. This is going to be, what is this gonna be? August. I'm gonna do this with you guys in August. All of our reports are found in the same spot in report generator. Oh, for report generator, I think we have 16 counties who are not live and don't have a training set up on report generator. 10 of those counties are this close to being ready to go. Is that right? 10? So like, I anticipate that tomorrow I'm gonna get a list from these two of like 10 counties where I need to log in, make sure everything's working, contact you, get you set up. So if you're one of the 16, chances are good you'll hear from me. After that, we have like 6. And the 6 that are left, we're working with your IT because you need a new cert or there's some issue with your, like, there's complications. We're still working on it. It's just, there's some background stuff that's more complicated for your county for some reason or another. So we're there or very close with pretty much everyone at this point. Okay, so when you get into report generator, we have these tabs up at the top, and we're gonna just walk through these tabs and input the information from this. So here, the first one is fields. I'm gonna grab my fields. I want parcel number, township city number, assessment code, total market and building. Will I be able to remember that? Okay, so we can either, so the part that I'm reading here is the text. I could take this text or I could go look for this AP city. If I want to look for AP city, I'm gonna go here and I can sort this A to Z and I can go look for AP city. There we go. Then I know I'm getting the exact same broker or the exact same option. Now I get parcel number, township city. What else did I want? Assessment code, total value, total market. Assessment code. value, if you're taking this with me, we could do starts with building value, and then didn't I want total market? Start A to Z, total market. I think so. Then if I go to the print tab, I can see which ones I picked. Township. Let's see if this works. Oh, okay. Township city parcel assessment code, total market and building. So I've got all my fields in there. This print tab, I can have it print in any order. I'm going to leave it printing in that order. The sort tab, I have a sort fields here, and it's telling me I sorted by parcel number. That's the automatic sort, so I don't have to change anything. Filtered. See, I have a city filter, and I have an assessment code filter. And I happen to know that those are prompts. But you could make them not prompts if you wanted. It doesn't say on here if they're prompts or not. And, okay, this one's not. Then I have building greater than. So this is going to be building is greater than. Change 200. Oops, not lock maybe. 15,200. So this one is equals 20. This one is equals these. If you want to do more than one, you have to do a prompt. Then greater than. Okay, so then we can get summary data if we want. It doesn't look like we had any summary data on here. Output. This is going to be our output. So summary only. No. Portrait. Letter. PDF. Options page, yes, because we got the options page, and then it can give us it's going to tell us what margins it had in there. So then if I submit this, hold on, I'm going to save it. If I submit this, it's going to give me my prompt. And I'm going to pick a township city, and then it's going to give me assessment codes, and I can see what assessment codes were put in here. 201, 202, 204, 208, 201, 202, oops, that's not what I meant to do. 202, 204, 208. And then I'll get the output. Now, I happen to know that the county that built this wanted this data. They must have put summary data in here. Am I missing this one? Does it say summary on here anywhere? Sort fields, sort filters. Oh, here we go. This is summary data. Hello. Okay. If I go into summary, well, it's even telling me like print. This is the length of the field. So 8, 12, 4, 11, 11. 8, 12, 4, 11, 11. That's what that is. Summary here. I want to count for parcel count. And then I want average, building average. Oh, no, not building average. Total market average. They listed them in the wrong order. Total market average. So that's what they did. So I believe that they built this report so that from our menu, they can go in here. This is what I like to do. Last run's going to be at the top. Here we go. And they can just say, somebody asks us for this information. We can come here. We can click on this. We can say, oh, this time I want it for Township 21. Yep, I still want those assessment codes, and it pumps that out for Township 21. We also have a way, and then it pumps it out for Township 21. We also have if you go, like this is August, use when called about such and such. I can go in and I can put a note. I go into here and I put a note. And not good at one hand typing. Sent to Susie. I do that when I go out here, when I hover over it. Oh, come on. gonna say send to Susie. So be like, oh, we want to do this whenever so-and-so calls. You can name it that, or you can put that note there, and do that. You can also however it's set on internally, you can always export via PDF or export via Excel. Now, any of you that have report generator, does anyone want to share like how they're currently using it, how they would use a report like this, or like what door is this open, how they're currently using it, where is somebody who's getting it new and hates the old report generator might want to start? Anything other counties that are getting report generator might want to know?
Big Stone. Yeah, that was our report. This is not a sponsored ad, even though there might be a pile of candy in front of me. But we absolutely love this report generator. We had somebody ask, commissioner actually asked us what our average market value is for a certain city. And we just figured we could do that with this report generator. I will say, as someone who's newer, I'd say I haven't done a whole lot in the old report generator, but I'd say I have dabbled enough in it that the learning curve on this is not as steep as the old one. All of us have learned it fairly quickly, and we've been running a whole bunch of reports on it just because we're interested in different things. Like even as simple as we send out postcards to our quintile before we get out, and we did our labels out here, and we could attach the parcel number that we are going to that label, or we've been through that in the I-Series before, or at least we didn't know how to anyway, so we could do something as simple as that. Otherwise, we're also doing like CPI type stuff here too, so that's my little shameless plug. We absolutely love it. The Big Stone County.
We call them the Big Stone Boys. They have actually helped us a lot. Like for a while, it was just Danny using report generator, right? And then one day he was gone and they really wanted something. So Sandy called me with Logan. And she's like, Dan's not here, but we think Logan can do this. Can you please just get us started? So we got them started, and then Sandy called back. She's like, okay, we're trying to figure out how to do this. I can't remember what extra thing it was. As I'm trying to figure this out, and I wrote the report generator help pages and have trained every one of you not every one of you that have done it, but while I'm trying to figure this out, she's like, oh, never mind, Logan figured it out. If you have like a young person in your office, even if their assessing isn't real great, just get them going on this report generator and you'll call me way less than, oh, never mind, they figured it out. And enjoyed it, correct? Yeah, they have a great time. So there's your little report generator. And if there's something that you want and you're like, was there another county that's done this? It's pretty easy, like I showed you here, to kind of share reports between counties. And even though you can't send it, pretty easy to build your own. Yo.
I create a report and say somebody in my office do a report all on the same thing. Is it locked for user like the old one, or anybody can now go in and print off the same?
He's asking how it works between users. So anyone can view any report, anyone can run any report. You just cannot, you can change. So if you make a report and I want to run it, I can go in, I can open it. It says other users' reports cannot be edited. All changes will be reverted. So I can go in here, I can make changes to your report, and then I can run the output. But if I want to save those changes, I have to save that report as one that I own. So really easy to like kind of use each other's reports or like make one that's slightly different. I love that you can go in, you can see everything, you can change things, you can run it. You just have to decide if you want to save your changes, you have to make a copy that's yours. You can't change someone else's report. That is really slick too. Yes.
From what I saw, because we just got trained on it this week, that all the old reports came in, and there's report names in there that I've never heard of or don't want, but it was created by somebody 15 years ago.
Yep.
But we can't delete it.
Right.
But you can.
You can only delete the reports that you own. So David's saying like, this is true. When you go to the new report generator, we will take all of your old reports, we will convert them to your new report generator. Note, Once we do that, any changes you make in the old report generator are not gonna be seen in your new report generator. We haven't had issues with that because nobody wants to go back to the old one. However, it's not ever reconverted. He had a lot of old ancient reports that are made by somebody that nobody has access to anymore, so they're just stuck there. You can't get rid of those reports, but we can. So if you want us to, get rid of reports, just send us a list of the ones you want gone, or I believe if you'd like us to take those old ones and make them owned by somebody in your office, then you can go through and change them. Can we switch the owner on a report?
Yes.
Yes. So we can change the owner so that now you have editing capacity for all of them. He's saying there's 2 report generators in the system. There will now be 1 report generator. So if I go here and I make a new report, there actually were like 9 report generators. We have assessors, assessor legal, auditors, auditor delinquent notices, ditches, treasurers previous year, late CAMET, sales ratio. Those are all the report generators we had in the old system. They're now all right here. You cannot use 2 at once. Like you still have to pick what set of data you're working with, but you have access to all of them right here. So when you convert, we convert all of them over, and then you have access to all of them right here. Any other questions or thoughts? All right, so a lot of you will hear from me tomorrow or early next week, depending on how many you call with questions tomorrow. If a lot of you call with follow-ups on prisms and things tomorrow, I might not get as much report generator homework done, but a lot of you will hear from me soon about report generator. If not, we're still working on it. We'll get going. That's it, folks. Thanks for coming. Have a good afternoon.